To state a private cause of action for securities fraud under Section 10B of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, a plaintiff must plead 6 elements. First, there was a material misrepresentation or omission. Second, the defendant had scienter, or a wrongful state of mind. Third, the conduct occurred in connection with the purchase or sale of a security. Fourth, the plaintiff wouldn't have entered into the transaction but for the defendant's fraud, which is known as transaction causation or reliance. Fifth, the plaintiff suffered an economic loss. And sixth, the plaintiff's damages were a foreseeable result of the defendant's fraud, which is known as loss causation. In the case In Re Vivendi Securities Litigation, the Second Circuit considered whether, in establishing reliance, a plaintiff must prove that a misstatement is associated with stock inflation to have an impact on a company's price. Vivendi Universal is a global media conglomerate. In 2000 and 2001, Vivendi acquired several media companies. However, by 2002, Vivendi began having trouble meeting its financial obligations. Nevertheless, despite the possibility that Vivendi could go bankrupt, it continued to represent to investors that it was in a solid financial condition. But in July of 2002, Vivendi's stock price crashed when the market learned of its true financial condition. Subsequently, a group of Vivendi's investors filed a class action lawsuit against the company in federal district court, alleging violations of Section 10B of the Exchange Act. In response, Vivendi moved to dismiss, arguing that the investors failed to state with particularity the statements that were false or misleading. The court denied the motion in part and granted it in part, and the investors filed an amended complaint. In their amended complaint, the investors identified 57 material misstatements that artificially inflated Vivendi's stock price. Following discovery, Vivendi moved for summary judgment, which the court denied. Further, Vivendi moved in limine to exclude testimony of the plaintiff's expert, Dr. Blaine Nye, which the court denied. During trial, Dr. Nye testified that Vivendi's stock was artificially high on account of the market's ignorance of the company's liquidity risk. But Nye measured only when the inflation occurred and didn't attempt to prove that any fraud or misstatements caused it. Following trial, a jury found Vivendi guilty. Vivendi moved for both judgment as a matter of law or a new trial, which the court denied. The shareholders then moved for an entry of judgment, pending proof of damages, which the court denied. Both parties appealed to the Second Circuit.